Hi, this is part 2. So if you didn't catch part 1 of Big Book of Bible Learning, you might want to go back and watch part 1. I really like this because it gives the listener some context. So when you're hearing about different things in the Bible, whether it's getting water from a well or going into a house or a temple, you can picture what it would have been like at that time, at the biblical time when it was written, not with our Western modern viewpoint. So I like that. And this next chapter is, why are you pouring oil on my head? So someone pours oil on your head. Would you be angry or would you be glad? This happened a lot in Bible times. It was called being anointed. Kings were often anointed. So were priests and high priests. So were some prophets. Often a high priest would anoint someone because God told him to. Samuel anointed David. This showed that David would become king. This is how Samuel did it. The oil was olive oil. It was squeezed from olives. Sometimes perfume was added to it. The oil was poured from an animal horn. It looked like this. Remember in the other book we were talking about how after a bath, the people would put olive oil on their skin. And the rich people would mix perfume with it. Would you like to have oil poured on your head? If you lived in Bible times, you might be very glad. You would be very glad if you were anointed. So there's the olives that were crushed to put into the horn. And then it was poured on the head. What do your parents do for a living? If you lived in Bible times, your dad might work in a vineyard. He might help in a grain field. He might swish grape juice through his toes at a wine press. He might make clay pots with a potter's wheel. Moms worked too, but they worked in the fields to help Dad. Or they took care of the children. If your dad was blind or very sick, he had to beg. If he could not walk or work, he had to beg. He had no other way to get money. So here is a man that had to beg, meaning he had to ask other people to give him money. These men are slaves. Their children will be slaves too. That's the way it was. One man owed some money. He could not pay it. The other man was angry. He made the first man become his slave. Another man was captured in a battle, so he became a slave. Slaves could be bought from a slave trader. Slaves did chores in the house. They took care of people. They worked in the fields. They carried heavy things for their masters. They did all kinds of work. Tell God that you're thankful you're not a slave. Yes, God, thank you. Saws, drills, and hammers. Do you like to go to the hardware store with your dad or mom? Most of us do. What do we see there? We see hammers, we see electric drills and sanders, we see saws. Most tools are electric. Bible time people did not have electricity, so there were no electric tools. So what did the carpenters use? Their tools were different from those today. Here is a Bible time saw. That does look different, doesn't it? Have you ever watched anyone drill with an electric drill? A Bible time carpenter had a drill. It was called a bow drill. And this is the way he used it. Bible time hammers were made of wood. Oh, that's very interesting. I've never seen one of those before. What did carpenters make during biblical times? People needed wagons. They needed wagon wheels. Of course, everyone needed some chairs or stools. Tables and chests were needed too. All these things were made from wood. Even farmers' plows were made of wood. So everyone needed a carpenter. See the wooden wheels? It's different, isn't it? Fishing with Peter on the Sea of Galilee. Would you like to go fishing with Peter and his friends? Peter and his friends needed hundreds of fish. They catch the fish and sell them. That's how they make their living. You won't need fishing hooks. Catching fish with hooks is too slow, and they needed hundreds. You need big nets. They are called drag nets. We must check the nets carefully. Are there any holes? We must fix them. Fish could get through those holes. The boats look like this. Are you ready? Let's go. Let's help Peter and his friends push their boats from the shore. We launch out now on the Sea of Galilee. Sometimes we must row these boats. Sometimes we put up the sails. The wind will blow and the boats across the river. Did I say river? It's not a river. It's a water. It's a sea. Gotta listen. I make mistakes. We must help Peter fasten one end of the big net to his boat. A friend fastens the other end of the net to his boat. Let's drop the anchor while we do this. The anchor is made of stone. It looks like this. This is how the two boats will pull the dragnet. See the anchor? And it's nothing like the anchors today. They're dragging that to catch all the fish in it, the two boats together. The fish will be trapped in the big net. Look, we will get many fish today. Are you ready? We will help pull up the nets. Do you see all the fish? Sometimes Peter and his friends do not fish with their boats. They stand in the water near the shore. They use a net like this. It's called a casting net. They throw it out, then they pull it in. The net pulls the fish toward them. What did the fish in the Sea of Galilee look like? Here are some. Sometimes Peter and his friends go fishing at night. One time they worked all night long, but they did not catch anything. Then Jesus helped them catch many, many fish. They were glad Jesus helped them. Remember to tell God thank you when He helps you. How does God help you? Sometimes He helps us if we're afraid. He gives us courage. Sometimes when we're sad, He gives us comfort. He helps us by giving our moms and dads jobs so that He can provide for us. There's lots of ways that God helps us. A day in the grain fields with Ruth. Ruth is gleaning. That's why people called her a gleaner. She is picking up stalks of grain. She will grind the grain to make flour. She will make bread with the flour. Ruth and Naomi will have bread to eat. Ruth will work all day in the grain field. She will work as long as the reapers are harvesting the grain. Here are some things Ruth will see in the grain fields today. Reapers cutting stalks of grain with sickles. The sickle looks like this. Other workers tie the stalks together. They use straw for their string. These bundles of stalks are called sheaves. They must lie here to dry. Do you see what these workers are doing? They are putting the drive sheaves onto donkeys or camels. They did not have tractors or other farm machines in Bible times. Now the workers take the sheaves to the threshing floor. They carry them with donkeys or camels. The threshing floor is a big, flat place. It is on a high hill. They need the wind blowing up here. The workers throw the sheaves onto the flat ground. Oxen pull a heavy sledge over the sheaves. This crushes the heads of the grain. It crushes the straw, too. The wheat or barley grains fall on the ground. They are mixed with the crushed straw. A worker picks up some of the crushed straw and grain. He has a big wooden fork. He throws the straw and grain into the air. Look at the wind blow the chaff away. The grain falls down to the crushing floor. The worker keeps doing this until most of the chaff is gone. This is called winnowing. So he's throwing it up in the air. He depends on the wind, since they're at the top of the hill, to blow away the yucky stuff, and the good stuff falls down. Women are now sifting the grain. This takes out everything but the grain. Later, the grain will be ground into flour. People will make bread from this flour. Bread is the most important food to these people. Remember in the first half of the book, we saw what their bread looks like. The next time you have bread, remember Ruth. Think how hard Ruth and her friends worked for their bread. Give thanks to God for your bread today and for all the other wonderful food he provides. That's a lot of work for a loaf of bread, isn't it? Uh-oh, grape juice squishing between my toes. Do you like grape juice? Would you like to squish it between your toes? People in Bible times did. In Bible times, many people had vineyards. That's where they grew grapes. When the grapes were ripe, people picked them. They carried them in baskets. They brought them to a big stone vat. This is called a wine press. Do you see what is happening? These men squeeze the juice from the grapes. They do it by stomping on the grapes with their bare feet. The grape juice squishes between their toes. It runs out in the smaller stone vat. People dip the juice from this vat. They put it in big jars or animal skin bottles. Would you like to squish the stuff between your toes? Would you believe that I did that when I was young? I think I was about 6 or 7, and I remember my dad washing my feet really good, and then he put me in what seemed like a very big ceramic bucket, but I've seen it recently, and it wasn't that big, but it's just because I was so small. And he told me to dance, stomp, stomp, and I squished those grapes between my toes. It was very fun. Helping David take care of sheep. Would you like to visit David too? Would you like to help him take care of his sheep? Let's go. There is David out in the fields. He must have 100 sheep. The sheep cannot find their own food. We must lead them to a place with good grass to eat. They cannot find their own water. We must lead them to water too. Look, one of the little lambs is hurt. We must carry him until he can walk again. It's night now. We will put the sheep into a sheepfold. This has a fence around it. It will keep out wild animals. We must sleep at the doorway with David. No wild animals must get past us. It's time to sleep, but we must always be listening. Nothing can hurt our sheep. When it's morning, we will help David count his sheep. If one is missing, we must find it. Look, here comes a lion. He wants to eat one of our sheep. Get your sling, get your spear. Let's be ready to fight the lion. We cannot let the lion hurt one little sheep. So be careful, lion. How can I write a letter? In Bible times, there was no paper like the paper in this book. Some people in Abraham's times wrote on clay tablets like this. People also wrote on animal skins. Sometimes these skins were rolled into scrolls, and they looked like this. People also wrote on papyrus. They made papyrus by hammering plant stems together like this. Scrolls were made from papyrus too. In Jesus' time, people had wooden tablets like this. A tablet was covered with wax. People scratched writing into the wax. They could erase their writing by making the wax smooth. The pens in this picture were made from reeds. The reeds were stems of plants. Yes, they had ink too. Do you see the ink pot? And here's the tablet. And then here's the reeds, which was like a pen. They dip it into the ink. Are you glad for paper? How would you like to do all your writing on animal skins or clay? How would you like to write on papyrus? Thank God for paper. It helps me have wonderful books like this. It helps me have lots of fun writing or coloring. Bible time malls were not like ours. Do you like to visit the mall? What do you like to find there? You ever go to a mall, shopping mall? You can buy clothing, you can buy food, you can buy almost anything you want. In Bible times, people shopped at a market like this. The mall you visit is open almost every day, but in Bible times, people came to the market only on certain days. Farmers and country people brought things to sell. They brought fruits and vegetables. They brought other foods they raised, and some brought sheep or goats to sell. Merchants set up booths. They sold things they had bought far away. These merchants often brought their things on camels. Each thing at the mall you visit has a tag. It tells you how much it costs. But Bible time people did not put tags on their things. People shouted and argued about the price. And the last person selling said yes. So he's saying, I don't want to pay that much. Yeah, you better pay that much. No, I want to pay less. Okay, I'll sell it for less. Let's take a trip. When you and your family take a long trip, you get into your family car. You drive on beautiful roads. On the way, you stop at a filling station or a gas station. You buy gas for your car. Perhaps you get some ice cream at the filling station. Do you need a restroom? The gas station has that. Where will you stay at night? There are many hotels and motels to choose from. What about dinner? There are many restaurants. Which one would you like? And sometimes you even stop for ice cream, don't you, when you're on a road trip? That's fun. So let's take a trip. But you're in Bible times now. You can't take the family car. They didn't have cars. You can't drive on beautiful roads. They had roads in Jesus' time, but they weren't like ours. You can't go on a bus or a train or an airplane either. There were no such things. Could you ride on a motorbike? No, sorry. There were no trucks or vans or streetcars or anything like that. You probably would walk. Most people walked when they went places, and they walked many, many miles. If your family had more money, you might have a donkey. One of you could ride the donkey, or the donkey might carry your things. Your family might not go alone. There are too many robbers along the way that could hurt you. People traveled together. When they did, they were called caravans. So lots of families would go together. Look at that man. He has enough money to get a camel. Ooh. He can travel faster and faster than anyone could on a donkey. Perhaps you need to take a lot of things along. You may have a cart or a wagon. Your whole family may get into the cart or wagon. It's slow going. 2 oxen will probably pull the cart or wagon. They don't win any races, but they get you there. It's time to stop for the night. Bible time people did not have motels like ours. They had inns. Inns look like this. Bible time inns did not have signs. You had to ask other people where to find them. See, they even had a place for the camel to spend the night. The inn had a place for your donkey or camel to get water. But there were no restaurants. People brought their own food. Bible time inns did not have beds. People brought their own sleeping pads. They did not have soft pillows. People did not use pillows much. The inn was not as nice as a motel today, but it was a safe place to stay. Thank you, Lord, for safe places to stay. Like our own house, right? Soldiers and their weapons. Think of the things soldiers fight with today. Bible time soldiers did not have most of these weapons, Bible time soldiers did not have machine guns. They didn't have guns or bullets. They did not have bombs or mines. Instead, they used swords, spears, bows, and arrows. Do you remember the sling David used? He killed Goliath with it. Slings were not just toys for shepherd boys. They were weapons used by soldiers. Bible time people did not have airplanes. They did not have submarines. There were no tanks like ours, but they did have chariots. A chariot was a powerful weapon in Bible times. It was something like a tank. Now, look at the other weapon. It was a mean one. It was called a battering ram. How would you like one of those at your door tonight? Thank you, Lord, for each day of peace. Thank you that I can sleep quietly tonight in my home. I'm glad I don't have a battering ram knocking at my door. The bulletproof vest of Bible times. There were no bullets in Bible times. That's because there were no guns. But metal armor like this one could stop a bullet. It kept arrows and spears from getting through. It kept its owners from getting killed. How would you like to wear a big metal shirt like this? You wouldn't want to play ball in it, but it would be great if someone shot an arrow at you. I bet it was very heavy too. Will you please get off my neck? That king isn't very nice, is he? He's stepping on that other man's neck. Ouch. The king on the ground is King Zedekiah. He was king of Judah. The king stepping on him is an Assyrian king. He just captured Zedekiah. That's why he's stepping on Zedekiah's neck. It was a way of saying, I won. Aren't you glad we don't do that today? Going to prison. You wouldn't want to be put into prison, would you? It is not easy, but it was much harder in Bible times. Paul was put into prison many times. He told people about Jesus. Some people did not like that. Sometimes they put him in prison. People in prison often had to wear chains like this. Sometimes a prisoner was chained to a guard. Paul had a guard like that in Rome. Or sometimes they were put into stocks like this. Paul and Silas were put into stocks at a prison at Philippi. Today we have buildings called prisons. In Bible times, there were not many prisons. Sometimes prisoners were kept in rooms dug out under the ground. Jeremiah was put into a cistern like this, like a big hole in the ground. Sometimes people were punished before they were put into prison. They might be whipped like this. That was called scourging. Jesus was scourged by a Roman soldier. Sometimes people were stoned. They never went to prison after stoning. Stoning killed them. Some people who would not pay debts were put into prison. Prisons were hard places in Bible times. Aren't you glad this is only a visit? Thank you, Lord, that you make me free. And that is the end of this book. It kind of ended abruptly. But I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you were able to listen to part 1. And now when you hear the Bible or you read it yourself, you can picture different things that you read about. So I hope that you enjoyed that, and I hope you read the Bible.